So, Bert, what about choice then?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Very good. See, we think there are many choices. Gosh, when I was a young man, I thought I had so many choices. I was going out of my mind. What to do with my future, you see, what to do with this, what to do with that. And and then came a time, and I had an experience with Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, and I began to realize that there's only here and now. Everything else is simply just about it. It's not real. And so then I realized that if, you know, what is the choice really? If truth is the here and now, if truth is all that there is, then is truth a choice? It's true. Truth is true, right? Is it a choice?
It couldn't be.
It couldn't be a choice, because are you going to use truth or falsehood? Are you consciously going to choose falsehood? Although most people do. But they don't know they're choosing falsehood. Every time you're afraid, you're choosing falsehood. But you don't know you're choosing falsehood. You see? So ultimately, we realize that there's really no choice.
And even falsehood isn't falsehood.
And even falsehood, when you look at it, isn't falsehood, because it melts and goes back to the source. You see? Everything gets back to source when you look at it. And that's why looking is so immensely important, to look at what is, because it takes you back to the source. But ultimately, I'm not saying there is no choice to the average person. There is. Because they still think that there's a difference between thought and awareness. So they're always making choices. But ultimately, when you realize that presence is all that there is, awareness is all that there is, the true life is all that there is, what choice is there? You see? And then you might say, okay, I will choose truth now, not falsehood. Isn't that funny? I will choose truth now. Hooray! You know? What choice do you have? You see? It's insane not to choose truth when you begin to realize that truth is true. Because if you go against it, you're going against yourself. You're destroying your life when you begin to choose consciously what is false. The reason people choose false is because they don't know it. They don't know they're choosing it. So ultimately you realize there's no choice, just like love and fear. All the time we're choosing love or fear. You see? We can't help it. The choice is happening all the time, but we're not doing it consciously. But when we look at it, we really, all we want is love. We don't want fear. Who wants fear? You see? So consciously we say, I want love. But then when you look at it, you find it's redundant. Because why should I choose love when love is what makes me happy, what makes me fulfilled, what makes me everything? Do I need to choose it? It is who I am. You see? And then you move it all the way. I am being lived by love. I am love. I cannot be anything else but love. It is only thought that makes me think I am other than love. You see? But thought is the conditioned past, the hypnotized past, the imprisoned past, the imprisoned, you know, yeah. You were going to ask something? Oh, I thought you raised your hand, sorry. Okay. Okay.
So once you recognize it, there's no turning back, really.
No. That's the beautiful thing, you see. Once you fully recognize it, you begin to see the redundancy of your thoughts, of what you're doing all the time to yourself, of what is happening. And this is the time to be kind to yourself. Because you begin to see how stupid I am, how ignorant I really am. You begin to see this. And when you begin to see it, there are choices again, love or fear. Am I going to hate myself for it? Or am I going to simply, that's what is happening now. And so I go with, that's what is happening now. That becomes automatic acceptance, automatic love. And the moment I begin to accept the way I am, I begin to move forward. But I am not moving forward. The moving forward is being done by life. Because I am, at that moment, saying, I'm okay. And when I'm saying I'm okay, I'm in sync with the universe. I'm with the flow. I'm no longer going against the harmony of that which is. You see? And so when I move with it, it's taking me along. And then I say, oh, I'm beginning to see more. I'm beginning to understand more. But that understanding is not you doing it. It is coming from you, you see, allowing yourself to see what is. How do you start living the life? How do you start living the life? The real life? Tell me.
Don't start anything.
There's no how to and there's no start. Just look at what is. Very good. It makes me laugh every time. Yeah. And that's it, you see. So, but you see, we like the word how. That's why I use it many times in the script. Because the moment the human part says, how do you do this? Oh, I want to read this. How? Do you know the how-to-do books have been the most popular non-fiction books? The how-to books, you see? There are books that sold well, how to make love. Now, do you need to know how to make love when you love someone?
Let's see now.
Let's see. Right, and so, but this is the way it goes, isn't it? When being negative and contracted, does it help when one says, "I can't help it," as you say, Burt, or is it running away from responsibility? Someone just wrote me today, this particular one, because I say, you can't help feeling how you're feeling. You really can't help it. You see? And then she says, but if I say that to myself, I can't help it, aren't I running away from responsibility? Can I hear some feedback? See, we have to stick with the truth, right?
If she just accepts herself in that place where she is, then it can move. And she doesn't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm. There's always the question that keeps coming back to me when I say I accept what is happening at the moment, and people actually ask me, well, how do I accept myself when at that moment the very act itself is non-acceptance? You see? So we go back to what we discussed last week too, yeah.
Can you talk about the feeling that arises and just the allowance of the feeling, but also the action that may arise out of that feeling? Let's say there's a feeling of anger or a feeling of hatred that may arise, and that feeling arises, and just the allowance of that feeling just naturally just arises. There's no question of how or responsibility or anything there, but then there can be the action that comes out of that when a person, in a sense, when it's not caught. But then there's the action, which is a creation. It seems like there's a creation of karma there when the action is made. So it seems that when the action is done, the person is in thought, not in awareness.
Yes. Yes, it's in complete thought, right?
So it seems like that question that you're asking is coming from thought.
Yeah, it's coming from thought.
The action that arises out of that thought.
And then the action that arises from that thought, that's right.
Yeah.
But now, at any time, if you can hit it right when the feeling comes, that prior awareness, I mean, this is why we call it a process of growth.
Yeah.
You see, in the beginning, people don't catch it the moment the contraction starts. They only start catching it when they're actually in the action itself, because it has already taken its expression. The thought has now expressed, manifested. Okay? But if at the moment of manifestation, which can create guilt, for example, you got so angry, you pounded your fist on the table, you broke the table, or maybe even tried to hit someone, okay, it can come to that action. And then there is the guilt that comes with it, and repercussions, etc., etc. But at that moment of action, if you for a moment became aware, look at what is happening, this, like you see the insanity of it, how caught you are. At that very moment, it can keep the action from getting worse.